Hi guys, it's me, ShazzaHD, and welcome back to the channel for this weekend's 2021 British Grand Prix. Cannot wait for this weekend's Grand Prix, even though the format is not as good, obviously, as the normal weekend format we have for Formula 1, which works so well, and obviously I'm not looking forward to the sprint qualifying race on Saturday, but I am excited for this weekend overall because great circuit. We have a great grid of drivers, of course. The cars, most of them are very close together on performance. And around Silverstone, when that is the case, normally we do get some pretty good Grand Prix here at Silverstone. So I am looking forward to the weekend. Just that sprint qualifying, not quite sure that's going to be the highlight of the weekend. Hopefully not later this weekend. But today we have a different schedule from what I normally do, because of course I go live twice on a Saturday and then 3 times on a Sunday. Now for the Sunday, it'll be the same schedule, just slightly different timings than usual for the European races. But of course today we have the first practice session, practice 1, which is going to start in about 13 minutes time, and then qualifying, which normally would be on a Saturday afternoon, and normally, sets the grid for Sunday's race, will be later tonight, or today, depending on where you are, at 6 p.m. UK time, so in about, 3.5 hours basically from now, or 3 hours and 45 minutes from now. And then, of course, that'll set the grid for the sprint qualifying race, which is going to be on the Saturday, and then the sprint qualifying race will set the grid for the Sunday Grand Prix. I am looking forward to today, though, because I think, this practice session, the teams have got to get, right out there, really. Of course, they've only got an hour to get, setups right, the balance right, to get their confidence going with what they have for this weekend. But if they don't, the teams or drivers get this session right, then they're in trouble, really, for the rest of the weekend, because, of course, qualifying straight after this session. So it is going to be very interesting to see, out of the blocks, who is immediately good and who immediately isn't quite there yet, because I think that'll give a very good indication as to, in qualifying, who ends up where. So we'll look out for that in practice 1. And then, of course, qualifying, I think, will be as exciting as it normally is. We'll see what happens tomorrow, sprint qualifying, and then hopefully the grid isn't massively different from tonight's qualifying to the race grid we have on Sunday, that of course will be decided by the sprint qualifying race on the Saturday. But like I said, I think we are in for mostly still a pretty exciting weekend, and as long as the sprint qualifying race doesn't ruin the weekend, then I think we'll be absolutely fine, to be honest. But yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, by the way, ahead of this weekend's Grand Prix, and hopefully today you are doing very well. In my part of the UK, it is extremely hot, and also at the circuit as well. It's a lovely clear day, very, very hot, and yeah, very good to see as well. So many fans at the circuit, and what's expected to be a capacity crowd at Silverstone this weekend. Yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, no matter where you're on the world. Hopefully having as best a day as you possibly can be having. But with 10 minutes to go until practice 1, let me just get into, and I'll put on some of these pictures for the moment. Let me just get into talking about, some of the teams and some of the news coming into this Grand Prix this weekend. I have to just clarify, though, these pictures that I'm showing right now, that will also be showing during the session, part of the Watchalong. These pictures are from last year's British Grand Prix, because of course there are no pictures yet from this weekend's British Grand Prix of the cars to include in a slideshow to show you guys on screen. Of course, when I do qualifying later, there will be pictures that I'll put up that were from this session coming up, but of course there's been no sessions yet, so these pictures are from last year's Grand Prix, so you have to make do with that, of course, for the rest of the session. But for the rest of the weekend, it should be absolutely fine. But yeah, if we get into some of the news, so Sauber and Alfa Romeo have extended, I guess you could say, their contract with each other. So it's still going to be the Alfa Romeo team going forward into 2022 and beyond, which I think is good news for Sauber, the Sauber part of that team, because they do get a good financial backing from Alfa Romeo, and it does give them a bit more of a cushion financially than they used to have a few years ago. So that is a good thing, I think, for them, and overall, I think for Formula One, it is a good thing as well. Also, and I probably should have got a picture of it, maybe I can try and find it now, of the new 2022 Formula One car that was debuted yesterday. They came up with a mock version, I guess you could say, of the car, and doesn't really look that much different from, say, the models that we saw, say, a few months ago, I think it was, or I think it was last year. Actually, I'll just get up a picture, because I've just seen, actually, and they've uploaded some, oh no, that's just models. I was going to say I was going to upload some model versions of the current or the new car with the livery, but let me just try and find a picture of it quick. Yeah, in terms of the actual pictures or the visual representation of the car, it's not really massively different, like I said, from the models that we saw in the last year or so. The end fences, for example, pointed up. The floors look completely different. Just the way the car is, I guess you could say, sculpted or shaped is, like I said, it's just massively different from what we've been used to in the last few years. And let me just get a picture of it on screen for you guys now. I'll get this first one up for you guys. And again, it's not got a certain livery. It's basically the F1 livery on this particular car. So let me just bring this down, so you can see here. There you go. That's the new car from yesterday. Again, the front wing, most of it doesn't look that different, except the the outer edges, of course, where it's pointed up there. You can see as well the shape of the floor in line with the car. It's different from, say, the cars we have now, where the cars are, in terms of the floor, they're basically just flat. As you can see, there's different variations with the height of the floor in certain areas there. And then I'll try, if I can, to find any rear end shots of the car, if I can. And I think I've got this. I'll show you guys as well. And of course, the rear wing is different as well. Not massively different, but it's different. And this car, if you didn't know, is essentially a ground effect car, which they are bringing back to Formula One. That, of course, we used to have back in the day, in the late 70s and early 1980s, that created tremendous downforce and massively increased the cornering speed back in the day, and that's why they got rid of it, because it was quite dangerous back then. But you can see here is the rear end of the car. It's not a great shot of the rear end of the car, but that's the best one I could find. But yeah, the cars, ground effect, they're going with that now, which I think was the right way to go, because I mean, many designers have been calling for it as the best solution to limiting the turbulent air effect of the cars. So it was the best solution, I think, definitely. And again, we've been hearing about that for years. This isn't just a new thing. Hearing about what can be done to help the turbulent air effect on these cars. And I think overall, I think this car will definitely be, once we see the new cars for next season, I think these cars will definitely be better, a lot better at following another car, without doubt. But I don't think it will be as good as they think it will. I think Ross Brawn said the wind tunnel data showed that the dirty air effect, in terms of percentage-wise, was only 5%, when the current cars, I think it's, is it 55% or something like that, or maybe even more than that. So it will, it'll definitely improve a lot, and we'll notice a big difference next season, but I still don't think it's going to be that big where we get literally, 2 or 3 overtakes per lap or anything ridiculous like that. And also remember, these cars are going to weigh a lot more next year, of course, with the new bigger tires. So it's not necessarily a guarantee that next season is going to be more exciting than this season. So just want to say that just so people don't get too excited for next season, because I understand why people want to get excited for next season, because massively new set of regulations and a complete new era basically. And then once we get to 2025, there'll be a new era on the power unit side for that. So we are going in a real new direction with Formula 1 in terms of the cars and the way they are. But I don't think people should get their hopes up, because even though things, yes, should improve, because a lot of work has gone into these cars in terms of finding, the best type of aero setup for the cars that would allow, cars to race better. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be as good as they, I think, are hoping for. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we get amazing racing every Grand Prix next season, but I don't think that'll be the case. But I think definitely with these cars, we should be getting back to, say, more like it was, say, 10 years ago, 2011, 2012, where, there was dirty air with those cars, but a lot less. That effect was a lot less back then than it is now. And I think we'll get back more so towards that. So, yeah, hopefully it does improve the show quite a bit. But we have, 2.5 minutes to go until the first practice session of the 2021 British Grand Prix weekend. Just to let you guys know, the air temperature right now at Silverstone is 24 degrees Celsius, and the sun is out fully at the moment. The track temperature is 43 degrees Celsius, which for Silverstone is very hot, and there is no wind at all. 1.8 kilometers an hour, pretty much nothing at the moment. And yeah, very, very hot day at Silverstone. Also, just want to say as well, before we get into the session, don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell, because I will be live again later tonight at 5:30 p.m. UK time for qualifying for the British Grand Prix until about 7 p.m. when the session ends. And then, because you guys voted for it, so don't blame me, I will be live tomorrow for the dreaded sprint qualifying race at Silverstone. I'll be live at 4:15 p.m. UK time for the 4:30 start, and then the race is only half an hour long, or 17 laps, so it's not actually that long of a session. So the stream will probably be an hour long at most, to be honest, considering again how short rather the sprint race will be. But yeah, I'll be live tomorrow at 4:15 p.m. UK time, and then live, of course, 3 times on Sunday. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or you can do it by going to my channel page. And whilst you're there, make sure to hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget as well to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But I'm going to now hide this slot and get the graphics ready for you guys for the session. Again, as I said, these pictures you see are from last year, unfortunately, because I haven't had any running so far. There you go. But practice 1 will be starting in 40 seconds time, and I'm expecting drivers really to be getting out there as soon as possible, because they need to get good amount of laps in this session to at least build confidence. I mean, the cars, the balance of the cars are never going to be perfect, but they need to make sure they build up as much confidence as possible going into the session, because if you're going into qualifying after having only 1 hour's running and you're not really feeling it, then, like I said, because of the format this weekend, it's going to completely ruin their weekends, as I don't think I will be ready in time. No, I won't, to start the session timer. But the session has now started, and the first car on track is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. The second car is a McLaren. Can't see who that was. And then Charles Leclerc comes out the second Ferrari. We'll have to look out for Ferrari this weekend, because even though, yes, this circuit is not necessarily suiting of their car, well, the first sector, I would say, definitely does suit their car, because there are 3 or 4 quite slow corners for them, which will help them along. And yeah, the second and third sector, though, isn't quite what the Ferrari car likes, and doesn't really excel in the fast, high-speed sections, as we've, pointed out many a time over the course of this season. But if you look at Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz's performance at Silverstone in the last few years, they've both been pretty strong. There you go, 59 minutes to go. They've both been pretty strong around this circuit. Leclerc has qualified in the top 10 in every race he's done here at Silverstone. In 2018, when he was with Sauber, he qualified in, I think, 8th or 9th place, which was pretty good. And then he qualified 3rd in 2019, 4th in 2020, and then, of course, finished 4th in the second Silverstone race in a week, after the first Grand Prix. But he didn't do that great in qualifying that time, but I think that was more so down to the car than himself. But if you look even the races, the 2018 race for Leclerc, he retired because of a loose wheel nut. Then 2019, he was on the podium. 2020, he was on the podium in the first British Grand Prix. And then the second Grand Prix at Silverstone, he finished 4th. So Charles Leclerc should be very strong this weekend, as long as the car isn't exceedingly bad around this circuit, which I don't think it will be at all. As, by the way, there's a Mercedes now on circuit. I think it's Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, that's for Charles Leclerc. Definitely, this is a good, very, very strong circuit for him. And for Carlos Sainz as well, it's strong for him as well, because he's finishing the points here quite a few times. I think 2016, I think he finished in 7th place here. And then I don't know if he finished in the points here in 2018. In 2019, I know he finished in 6th. And then last year at the 2 Silverstone races, he had a puncture in the first one when he was running in 4th place. And then the second one, I think he had a problem in qualifying, and that's why he didn't end up scoring a point. So, overall, Ferrari should be pretty strong here, as I was saying. And of course, Mercedes should be pretty strong here as well, because Mercedes have won this race so many times since 2013, where for this team based from Brackley, they got their first win at Silverstone, as Lewis Hamilton is on the medium compound tyre. And he is about to start his first flying lap of practice 1. By the way, there's only 2 cars who are not on circuit right now, and that is the 2 Aston Martins, as Carlos Sainz did briefly go quickest there. So let me just update some of the order. So you've got Ricciardo briefly in first place. Max Verstappen has now gone up into first place for Red Bull. And then Charles Leclerc has jumped up into second place. Mick Schumacher has gone up to 3rd. So Schumacher is in 3rd at the moment. No, he's not anymore, because Esteban Ocon is now into 2nd. Ocon, good first lap for him. And with the amount of cars on the track, as I said, it's very important that people get out there and start showing pace straight away, because they have to. As Lewis Hamilton he did a purple first sector, which is not a surprise, because that's a bit more suiting for the Mercedes car than the second or third sector is. He's not, though, done a purple middle sector, as Pierre Gasly has just gone up to 2nd. We'll see what Lewis Hamilton does, though, with this lap. Hamilton comes to line. He does go P1 on a 1:30.0. Lewis Hamilton, good first lap out of the garage there. And yeah, Verstappen is currently sat in second. And then you've got Gasly in third. And then Fernando Alonso is up in fourth place for the Alpine team. Ocon is fifth. Carlos Sainz is in sixth place. And then you've got Yuki Tsunoda in P7. At the moment, Russell has had a good first run in eighth position. Let me just update that. There you go. I will say, though, his and other people's laps are not exactly quick at the moment. They could definitely go quicker with their laps so far. At least I hope so. As Valtteri Bottas comes through the final chicane and now comes to the final corner of turn 18 and goes up into third position. So Valtteri Bottas up to third, and Bottas 7/10 of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. Got to say, Hamilton's first and final sector were very, very good. And let me just update that. So Bottas is into third. And let me try and get the rest of the order right. So you've got Schumacher 11th. Norris is in 12th. Ricciardo 13th. As Leclerc here on this lap has a lot of traffic. So he's not really going to improve this time. We'll see as he comes to the line. Well, he does improve, but it's only by one position up to ninth place. But he does have a mountain of traffic ahead as Lando Norris is out there pounding round on the hard compound tyre, currently 1.8 seconds slower than Lewis Hamilton on this lap so far. This should, though, improve him up to around 10th place. So we'll see what he does as Latifi is up in 15th. Then Giovinazzi 16th, Raikkonen 17th, and then Perez 18th. The two Aston Martins at the very back. And Lando Norris does improve his time, but he stays in P12 as Sergio Perez is out on circuit now on a lap as Esteban Ocon goes up to third place in the Alpine. Sergio Perez comes to the final chicane of 16 and 17, now through turn 18, and Perez now goes up to third on a 1:30.4, which is, in terms of the time compared to him and his teammate, is about what he should be doing. He's only a 10th and a half, basically, away from teammate Verstappen. So yeah, Perez now up into third place there. Yuki Tsunoda, I've just noticed, is up to P5. And then Bottas 6th, Gasly, Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc. And Latifi in the Williams has just gone into 10th place. Ricciardo has gone up to 13th. And the rest of the order is what it says on the screen, thankfully. So there you go for the moment. As Russell, I think, just finished a lap. And yet he did. He went up into 9th place. So Williams looking nice and quick out of the blocks, which of course that will help going into the qualifying session later on. As Lewis Hamilton rounds the... Is that Lewis Hamilton coming through the final corner? I don't know. Now comes through turn 1. It was Lewis Hamilton. And it's just a replay of Hamilton's tyre slip out of the pit. Out of his, his pit garage. And Hamilton, they're just showing slow-mo replays. He's currently, like I said, quickest on a 1:30.0, which I wouldn't say is very quick, but it's P1 at the moment, so that's all that matters, really. And remember as well, one thing that is interesting to note, I mean, I don't think it will really matter, because I think the teams already are probably using the engine mode that they're going to use for the weekend. But remember, they don't have to on a Friday. They could easily save power today, but they can't, because if they do that in qualifying and end up with a poor position, then they can't overtake anyone on the race, then they're doomed. So I think what you're going to see is this whole weekend they're going to be using the engine mode that that they want to use for the weekend instead of just using it on a Saturday and Sunday. They'll have to use it for the entire weekend, and hopefully everything goes right there. As just noticed that Sebastian Vettel in the Mercedes-engined Aston Martin is up into 8th place, as Hamilton, just showing a replay of him on the exit of Copse, running wide, bouncing over the exit. There isn't really anything out there on that exit of Copse that's going to hurt the cars, so it's not really a massive deal, him being out there. As also, with Vettel now in 8th, Lance Stroll is in 10th place for Aston Martin, as Ocon improves his time yet again to a 1:30.4, only 4 tenths off the pace so far as Esteban Ocon, as Valtteri Bottas comes through to the middle sector point, and he's currently 0.04 of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton on this lap so far. So he needs to get this final sector right if he wants to get P1. As the order, I have to say, moving around all the time, as we've got Mazepin now in 15th, Norris up in 14th, as Bottas does go into P1. Great final sector, and goes P1 on a 1:29.8, about 2 tenths of a second quicker than teammate Lewis Hamilton. Remember, Valtteri is pretty good at Silverstone. He had pole position here in 2019 and the second Silverstone race in 2020, and quite frankly, I think was very unlucky in that 70th anniversary Grand Prix to finish behind his teammate, because he was better than Lewis really for the whole weekend. Saying that, Lewis Hamilton goes about, a further 2 tenths pretty much quicker than Bottas to a 29.6. It's Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Ocon, Tsunoda, Gasly, Vettel, Alonso, Stroll. Russell is currently in P11. And then you've got Charles Leclerc in 12th. Carlos Sainz is in 13th. Lando Norris is 14th. Mazepin is 15th. Latifi 16th. And then we'll have to see in a moment what the rest of the order is. After that, here's a replay of Bottas at Copse and running slightly wide, but I don't think he gained anything by doing that. Just straddled the curb a bit. But you don't want to be doing that too many times, because you will eventually damage the car beyond repair. So he's got to make sure he gets that line right through Copse. And let me just update the rest of the order we have. So you've got Ricciardo now up to 14th. Sebastian Vettel has just gone up to 6th place. That's a good another lap for him. And yeah, I was going to say the rest of the order is bang on. But Kimi Räikkönen has upset that by going 16th. And Norris has now gone up to 14th. Also, Leclerc has gone ahead of Russell in P11. Stroll has now gone up into P7. So 6th and 7th for Aston Martin, who I am actually expecting this weekend to be pretty strong, because this circuit, it's very, again, high speed. So it should suit the Aston Martin car. And also, in the race, when tyre wear becomes a clear factor, which it will, Aston Martin, because they have probably the best tyre life on the grid, they will be pretty strong on the in the race on Sunday. As Alonso goes up into 8th place, ahead of the 2 AlphaTauris. So there you go. As Carlos Sainz goes up to P12. Let's see if Fernando Alonso can go any quicker on this lap. I don't think he will. No, he will not. Must have made a mistake out there. But the rest of the order is, as you see on screen. And at the moment, looking pretty good for Mercedes. Yes, it's only practice 1, but like I said, they've got to get this session right to give him confidence going into the rest of the weekend, as Valtteri Bottas does a stonking middle sector, 4.5 tenths quicker than Hamilton so far on this lap, and a brilliant middle sector. And his turn 15 exit wasn't great, I have to say. Hopefully he hasn't spent all of his tyres. As he comes to the line now, as Esteban Ocon goes third, and Valtteri Bottas goes into P1 on a 129.3. 3 tenths quicker than Hamilton, but he probably could have gone an extra tenth quicker because he did run wide on the exit of turn 15. Not massively wide, just a tad wide. But still, good lap nonetheless. So yeah, it's Bottas from Hamilton and Ocon in third place, but Ocon is 8 tenths of a second slower than Valtteri Bottas. But Mercedes are looking good here, straight out of the blocks. And also he ran wide at the final, or not the final corner, but the penultimate corner. He ran wide there as well. So yeah, Valtteri definitely could have gone probably 2 tenths quicker on that lap. Great lap until that final sector. Yeah, Mercedes looking good. Very good initially. Very, very quick. I know Red Bull, they haven't quite set the times yet. Saying that, here comes Sergio Perez on a set of medium tyres. We'll see what Perez can do. But this is very impressive from Mercedes, because in the last 2 weekends at the Red Bull ring, even in practice, Mercedes couldn't get anywhere near Red Bull. Normally, Red Bull are the ones who are weaker in practice. So it's very impressive that Mercedes are straight out of the blocks massively quick. Of course, Mercedes have brought an upgrade to this Grand Prix, I believe, as Vettel has just climbed up to 4th place, as Sky F1 at the absolute worst timing go to an ad break. So I cannot tell you what Sergio Perez is able to do, because Sky F1 are on an ad break, which is a shame. But we've had a pretty good session so far. It feels like we've flown through 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes in this session. And we've had some pretty interesting times so far. But yeah, Mercedes have brought an upgrade this weekend. It's not a massive upgrade. I think it's from the CFD side. I think I heard Paul di Resta say on Sky F1 a couple of weeks ago. So it's not going to be a massive upgrade. It's not going to massively upgrade their car from what it's been like in the past few races. But they need desperately that upgrade, even if it gives them a 1/10 or 2 tenths of a second. That would be massively welcome, because if they were to just keep their car as it is, they are going to lose a championship. They really are, because Verstappen and Red Bull are in such a groove right now, and they keep upgrading their car because they know this year they have such a great chance at winning the championship. And I know people might say, well, 2022 around the corner, they don't want to get that, set of regulations wrong and don't want to be, lagging behind. But as Helmut Marko actually said in an interview, they don't want to make the same mistake as BMW did in 2008, where BMW were leading the championship after 7 races, I think, in 2008, and then they gave up the development on that car to concentrate on the 2009 car, which of course was massively different compared to 2008, and in 2009 they were shit. So they don't want to make that mistake, because when you get an opportunity to win a championship, you've got to take the chance and go for it at the time. You can't just say, well, let's focus more on next year because, to make us stronger next year. Who knows who's going to win the championship next year? Red Bull might, Mercedes might, you never know, McLaren or Ferrari might. We don't know, as of yet. So it would be pointless, I think, for Red Bull to just give up developing this year's car and just say, well, next year is everything, when, yeah, it's very important, but at least they know with this year's car that they do have not even just a chance of winning the championship, they have a great chance. And I think I heard an interview with Verstappen this coming into this weekend, and the interviewer asked Verstappen, can you guess who else or how many times a 32-point lead or greater has been overturned? And Max guessed it was never. And then the interviewer corrected him and said there was only one time where a lead like that was overturned, and that was, of course, Sebastian Vettel overturning Alonso's lead over him in 2012. So, you know, given that Verstappen is leading by 32 points, and he could be leading by more by the time we get into the summer break, which is only, 2 weeks away, the summer break, of course, at the conclusion of the Hungarian Grand Prix. If he can be leading the championship by 45 points, I mean, that is definitely a brilliant decision to keep upgrading the car, because they need to give themselves a big cushion going into the second half of the season. Because I don't think in the second half of the season they're really going to develop the car at all. I think they've said they're going to develop the car as much as they can up until the summer break. Talking of Red Bull, though, and, you know, me saying, oh, Mercedes looks so quick. They've come back from the ad break, and Max Verstappen is not only P1, he is miles quicker than anyone else on a 1:28.1. He's 1.2 seconds quicker than Valtteri Bottas and 1.3 quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Truly stunning speed there from Verstappen, and he's about 3/10 quicker than Sergio Perez, who is in second. So it's now a Red Bull 1-2. Again, a massive gap back to Mercedes. So just like that, it massively swaps around. So Verstappen leading from Perez, and then Bottas and Hamilton. Let me just adjust this picture a moment. There you go. Yeah, there you go. I've got it right now. Verstappen saying, I know we saw that on exit of turn 17. Can you fix it, though? It will be engine 9, position 9. So some kind of issue they found. Hopefully it's not too serious. But yeah, Verstappen is currently in P1 from Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, Ocon, Vettel, Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda, Gasly. And then you've got now Daniel Ricciardo in P11, Lando Norris in 12th position. I think McLaren and Ferrari are just trying to get some race data in. Because, of course, the race will be very important, even if they have an amazing sprint qualifying race. Getting the data now will be vital for the race, because I'm expecting it to be quite not a race of attrition, but kind of an endurance race, especially with the tyres, because of how hot it will be this weekend. I mean, on Sunday, it might even be, we're hearing it might be up to 30 degrees Celsius at the circuit. So we might be in for an extremely hot Grand Prix, and given that the tyres, wear out massively here anyway, even if it's not sunny, getting the data now will be absolutely crucial as Max Verstappen comes through now the final corner, and Verstappen goes even quicker onto a 1:27.7, goes 0.4 of a second quicker, and he is now 0.7 clear of Perez and at least 1.5 seconds quicker than both Mercedes. So he definitely is showing a lot stronger pace now than he was about 10 minutes ago. So great there from Max Verstappen, who still, even though I am expecting a response from Mercedes either this weekend or in Hungary, because those two tracks, at least for Lewis Hamilton, have been very strong, it's going to take a near perfect or pretty much a perfect performance to beat Max Verstappen, because Verstappen right now is driving so well. He's so confident, and him and the Red Bull car are so at one with each other that, again, you have to be almost perfect at the very least to beat him. So Hamilton's got to be on his A game this weekend, which normally at the British Grand Prix he is. As let me just complete the rest of the order, and actually the rest of the order is as it is on the screen. So there you go. We have Verstappen currently P1 by 7.5 of a second to Perez, and then Bottas and Hamilton 1.6 and 1.7 seconds respectively slower than Verstappen, as Yuki Tsunoda is doing a run on the medium compound tyre. This looks as though it is a race run of sorts. as Tsunoda, yeah, he's lapping about 3.5 seconds off the pace. Maybe it's even a sprint quali simulation to find out what, on that fuel load, what the pace is probably going to be like for that particular part of the weekend. As we're, 35 minutes away from the end of the session. As McLaren just taking some photos of the front wing for further analysis later on back at the factory. Of course, many of the teams who are at this Grand Prix, many of the teams have bases and factories very close to Silverstone. For Aston Martin, it's literally their home because they are based literally across the road from the Silverstone track. But also the Mercedes factories, they're very close to Silverstone. Red Bull is just up the road from the for the Silverstone circuit. The reason I know this is because I did go to Silverstone about 3 years ago, so I do kind of remember the area and where certain towns or cities were. Yeah, Red Bull just up the road. Mercedes, I think, just down the road from Silverstone. And of course, Aston Martin are based here. McLaren, based quite a bit further away, but they're still, of course, close enough for them to be, at home. Of course, Ferrari don't have a base in England. I don't believe so. I think AlphaTauri do to a certain extent. And then, of course, Williams do. And Alpine do with the Enstone base. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly where Enstone is on the map in the UK, but I'm guessing it's not too far away from Silverstone because really, if you're going to be an F1 team and set up a base in England, you want to be setting it up at least within an hour of this circuit. As Sebastian Vettel jumps up into third place in the Aston Martin. Still, though, he is 1.2 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. As Antonio Giovinazzi, who was down in, last place, he's now up into P7 in the Alfa Romeo. So, Giovinazzi up into 7th position. Mick Schumacher has now gone up to 9th. They're getting some big improvements now as the track is really rubbering in. Also, another reason why it's important to do some race simulation running to collect data is the Grand Prix on Sunday will be taking place about this time of day, and it's scheduled to be probably this hot, if not hotter, on Sunday. So, again, critical that they get that data for the Grand Prix, as Mazepin has climbed his way up to P11 as well. So there you go. And yeah, the top 10 is now Raikkonen goes up to 8th. Let me just update that. We Raikkonen up to 8th. I'm going to guess that Alfa Romeo have gone out on a lot fresher and softer tyres than they were on. But yeah, it's currently Verstappen, Perez, Vettel, Bottas, Hamilton, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Ocon, and Mick Schumacher. Let me just update, though, that Stroll on my screen is up into 6th place, and then you got Giovinazzi 7th, Raikkonen 8th, and there you go, Ocon 9th, Schumacher 10th, and Alonso 11th, then Mazepin, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ricciardo, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Latifi. Even though Ferrari are low down, they're not going to be for much longer, as Charles Leclerc starts a run, his first run, on the medium compound tyres. So let's see what kind of speed Ferrari have this weekend. With this man, should be pretty good because, as I've said, he's had pretty good qualifying performances here. Really, every single Grand Prix he's done at Silverstone. So this should be a strong lap from the Monegasque, who has DRS open now towards turn 6 and the Luffield section where he's got some traffic ahead, but they're going to get out of his way. One of those cars being his teammate, Carlos Sainz, as Esteban Ocon, I've noticed, has gone back up into 6th place there. So Ocon is up to 6th. As Leclerc comes through Copse, no problem at all. Now into Maggots, Beckett's, and through Chapel as well. And using all of the road he can. Can't give you at the moment a sector time because they're not showing it on the screen. But I am sure it is very, very quick as Leclerc now comes into the final chicane of turn 16 and 17. And Leclerc now comes on to turn 18. And Charles Leclerc, he goes into third place on a 128.8. There you go. Charles Leclerc really doing the best he could with that lap because he wasn't going to go any higher than that. 1.1 seconds down on Verstappen. Will be interesting to see with half the session remaining what Mercedes do. They're currently on track, I believe, doing some race running, of course, to collect data for that. It'd be interesting to see if they do, go out to try and set some quicker times later. It'd be interesting to see how close they can get and whether they can even go quicker than what Red Bull have done so far. Because Red Bull, at the moment, in this session, I mean, of course, we don't know the fuel loads that the teams are using. But at the moment, Red Bull are miles quicker than any other car out there. So it's not exactly looking great for the opposition. And Red Bull look as though they're picking up where they left off in Austria. As Mazepin has gone up to 12th place. Currently P11 and P12 for the Haas F1 team. They, of course, won't remain there because they've got AlphaTauris, McLarens and a Ferrari below them. And now Alonso climbs his way up into P12 as Carlos Sainz is on the medium compound tyre now. And he is coming through to the middle sector point. He's currently 1.1 seconds down on Verstappen after the first two sectors. He'll probably go into 5th place with this lap. Maybe slightly better. We'll have to see. As he now comes into the final chicane of 16 and 17. Hits the apex of the first part. And the second part. No problem at all. And he comes to the line. And yeah, he goes up into 5th place at a 129.1, which is about what I said he would do. Just update that. Sainz up into P5, and hopefully we'll be getting to see the McLarens soon. We won't be seeing Lando Norris very soon because they are doing some work on his car, the front end, at the moment. So, like I said, we won't get to see what Lando at his home Grand Prix can do. Has had a bit of a troubled last week or so, has Lando Norris, because he did attend the European Championship final last Sunday and had his watch stolen in the melee. And I have to say, the behaviour of the fans at that final was absolutely disgraceful. And I have to say, in terms of me giving my personal opinion, I really hope we don't host the 2030 World Cup in this country because it will be basically a war zone for 5 weeks, and I do not want that. I don't think any person in this country wants that, and that's what's going to happen if we host the World Cup. And I have to say, the behaviour of the fans at that game, especially that Italy game, as Hamilton doing some race running, just saying that he's got a blister on his front right already, which it's a bit of a surprise because normally you'd expect the left front to be getting all the pain here because those are where the longest corners are here when you're turning right. So you'd expect the left front tyre to be suffering a bit more than the right-hand side. Yeah, I just wanted to say the fans at that game were absolutely disgraceful, from breaking into the stadium without tickets. Crushing people, littering everywhere, abusing players racially and in other ways, just awful, absolutely awful. And thankfully, I think at this Grand Prix, I mean, the crowds at Silverstone are definitely a lot more civilized than you get at football, and we're not going to get yobs and idiots and just absolute clowns at this Grand Prix, which is good, because I have to say the crowd of a week ago really made this country look terrible. But hopefully, some pride will be restored by the crowd this weekend, who should be a lot better and again more civilized. But yeah, I just wanted to give my personal opinion on that, because of course it's been a big story in the last week or so, of course, with crowds returning and all of that. And yeah, hopefully we don't get to host the World Cup, because that would be a bad idea. And as someone living in this country and of course been born and raised here, I can tell you now, it will be a disaster if we host the World Cup. It will be an absolute disaster. As Daniel Ricciardo, back to F1, is up into 6th place. He just set an improved lap, so that's a decent time for him. As Lewis Hamilton still doing some race running, currently following a Alpine through I can't remember what the corner's called. Oh, Stowe Corner, there you go. As he now comes back into the pits with 24 minutes to go. And the order is Verstappen still, P1 from Perez, Leclerc, Vettel, Sainz, Ricciardo, Bottas, Hamilton, Ocon, Stroll. That is your top 10. And the rest of the order is Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Alonso, Mazepin, Tsunoda, Gasly, Norris, Russell, and Latifi. Just want to say, though, again, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell for the channel as well, because I will be live later today for the race. I wish. I'll be live later today for the qualifying watch-along, which the session itself starts at 6 p.m. UK time, but I will be live at 5:30 p.m. UK time for the build-up, and then, of course, take through the session, and then quickly react to the events of qualifying later today. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell and come along to that later on. And as well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. As Sergio Perez, by the way, has done a lap time and has improved his time by quite a bit, by about 3.5 tenths of a second, but he is still in 2nd place, about 4 tenths of a second slower than Max Verstappen. Talking of Verstappen, Red Bull absolutely going for it in this session. They've now put on the soft compound tyre with Max Verstappen. I'm going to guess he's on a lap because he's pushing very hard. And yeah, it's in a purple first sector. So let's see the tyre difference between the medium and the soft. And let's see how much he gains here as he now comes through the old pit straight, now through Copse, which is a flat out corner in these cars. Great to see next year's cars through that corner, I have to say, as he passes a slow Ferrari through Maggots and Beckett's, hitting the apex bang on every single time, and his middle sector is good. It's 4 tenths of a second quicker than his previous best. And now he comes through Stowe, hits the apex kind of, and gets through the exit just fine as Lando Norris goes up to 3rd place in the McLaren. I'll update that in just a moment. As Max Verstappen comes to the line and further improves his time to a 1:27.0, improving by 7 tenths of a second and is 1.1 seconds quicker than Sergio Perez. And Mercedes currently down in 10th and 11th, almost 2.5 seconds off the pace. So they're gonna have to get out there, Mercedes, and see where they are, because they can't allow Verstappen this much confidence going into the session. As just going to update, Norris up to 3rd now, and Leclerc is still in P4. I've just clicked the wrong thing on my computer, so if the stream does lag, then I apologise. This accidentally opened up Photoshop for some reason. As they're just showing on the TV broadcast a replay of some of Max Verstappen's lap at the moment. And there you go, got everything back now. And yeah, Max Verstappen currently in P1 and looking very, very strong. I want to, though, update the order, and hopefully I can do so in a moment if they show the order. And there you go. So it is Verstappen, Perez, Norris, Leclerc, and then Pierre Gasly is up in 5th place. AlphaTauri should be strong this weekend to a certain extent. Gasly has been pretty good at Silverstone. Even when he was at Red Bull in that short stint, his best race for Red Bull was here, where he finished in 4th place and was very good. Very, very good with his performance. So, should hopefully see something similar this weekend. And of course, I think finished, was it 7th in the first 2020 race here, and then the second one, I think he qualified in 6th or 7th. So watch out again for Pierre Gasly. Sergio Perez comes to the line and doesn't improve his time, interestingly. They must have made a mistake on his lap. But Yuki Tsunoda, talking about AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda is up into 8th place, as we just had a yellow flag briefly. And you got Ricciardo 9th, Bottas 10th, Hamilton 11th. Ricciardo, though, has just gone up into 3rd place on the medium compound tyre. There you go. Got to say, McLaren and Ferrari do already look as though they are the two quickest teams in that midfield pack. So, not really a surprise because they are the best 2 teams in the midfield, quite clearly. But they do, all 4 drivers look very quick. As Sebastian Vettel has gone back up into 4th place in the Aston Martin. As we are just waiting to see the conclusion of this lap from Pierre Gasly, who goes up into 4th place on the medium compound of tyre. Yuki Tsunoda goes up to 6th, so good to see that Tsunoda has some good speed. I think you are seeing now with Tsunoda, now that he's racing at circuits that he has raced at before, and now he's had a couple points finishes under his belt, and, a couple top 10 qualifying starts, or qualifying finishes rather, he is now really getting confident, and I think you can see clearly that he is in the groove, as Lando Norris has done an absolute stonking lap and gone on to 2nd place and almost 0.6 of a second quicker than his own teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, who is now down into 4th place, and Norris up to 2nd there. And this is a replay of Sainz, and he spun in between turn 3 and turn 4, where Daniel Ricciardo spun in the 2nd race at Silverstone last year. It was actually Sainz who made him spin last year as well. So there you go. And he gets away just fine. He should be fine. His tyres shouldn't be in that bad of a condition. Saying that, I think he is now in the pits, or is that Charles Leclerc? No, there's Carlos Sainz, so obviously his tyres weren't quite up to scratch. As I think I've got the order bang on. Yeah, I have. So far, with about 17 minutes to go in practice 1, you've got Verstappen from Norris, Perez, Ricciardo, Gasly, Vettel, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Sainz, and then Bottas, and then Hamilton 11th, Ocon 12th, Stroll 13th, and then Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Alonso, Schumacher, Mazepin, Russell, and Latifi. That is your current order with about 16.5 minutes remaining in the session. Let me just read some of the chat though whilst we have a break in the action. Vincent asks, what is the UK time right now? It's currently 3:15 p.m. The qualifying will be starting in 2 hours and 45 from now. So, of course, again, remember to come on to that, because I think we are going to be in for a good session, especially with the short running we've had so far this weekend, as Lance Stroll has just popped himself up into 12th place. As Sky F1 now go to an ad break, so can't give you any more updates for the moment. Rase Ranch says, I like this format of the racing weekend, more exciting for the fans. I don't mind less practice sessions, say going into qualifying and then the race. I don't mind that at all. I actually think that would be a better solution for the race weekend, making it, like it has been so far today, where we're getting cars on track straight away, banging in laps. That's great. I just don't think having a sprint qualifying race is the way forward, because I don't think it will work. I just fundamentally don't think it will really make a difference on the order that we're going to get in qualifying. Because if you look at, say, at least with these cars, if you look at, say, what happens in a normal qualifying session, and then you have a race day where the weather conditions and the track conditions are normal, how many times in the first, say, 20 laps, because these sprint races are only going to be 15 to 20 laps, I think the one tomorrow is 17 laps, how many times as the order from qualifying to, say, lap 20 in the race, excluding accidents and lap 1 incidents, when has the order been really ever that much different from, again, qualifying? It isn't really, because normally what happens in a race, in the current Formula 1 we have, is the order will remain basically the same. And then once we get to the pit stop phase, which normally in Formula 1, given the amount of laps we have and the distance the tyres do, it's normally between lap 20 and 30 around most circuits. That's then when you see the order progressively through the race massively changing around. And then towards the end of the race, you then get drivers finishing in positions a lot higher than where they started. And that's why I think tomorrow's race will not succeed. Because what I think will happen is if we don't get a exciting first lap and, say, some overtakes or even an accident that causes, loads of people to gain positions and a few people to lose positions, if they all get away kind of, not even average, if they get away and it's all, in flying formation, really, and there's no real difference in positions, which we have actually had a couple times this season. I think there was the race in Portugal. You look at the first lap there was only like 2 or 3 cars that actually made a gain or a loss on the first lap. If we have that tomorrow, and then the first 17 laps, or the 17 laps is just one car following another in a DRS train, nothing's going to happen. And as well, another thing to point out, which is going to make this idea, I think, definitely, in terms of its end product, it's going to be worse, is that the tyres are going to be, the same tyres, of course, they used for the Grand Prix. So even though, yes, it's a shorter race, yes, there'll be less fuel on board, they will still have to look after their tyres. Because Silverstone wears out tyres very frequently, let's say, and does wear out the tyres a lot. And after, if they push very hard, say, for the first 5 laps in the sprint race, their tyres will be gone and they'll have to be looking after them for the final 12 laps of the race. So I think for me, there is definitely more cons than pros when it comes to the sprint qualifying race. And I do think it will fail. And because I think there are more cons than pros, I am kind of hoping it does fail, because I just don't think it is the solution that we need. I think there are better ways of making a race weekend more exciting. And I don't think a sprint qualifying race is the way forward. And I'm not the only one. I think the majority would say, majority of F1 fans would agree and say this is not the best way forward and probably shouldn't be going ahead with this idea anyway. As well, it's not even really, if you're going to compare it to, say, the sprint race that we get in F2, it's not even paying tribute to that idea, because in the sprint race, they swap around, was it the top 8 or the top 10? They're not even going to swap around the order to make it at least a bit more interesting that way. It's just going to be, again, the first 17 laps, the only bloody laps in the bloody race. The 17 laps, again, if there's nothing that exciting going on, then, on the first couple laps, then it's just going to be everyone finishing where they are, or where they've started the race from, I'm afraid. So, I mean, I hope it does, not do that bad, because I think it would be highly embarrassing. And I do, considering I'm doing a stream for it, I do want to have some sort of enjoyment, and I just don't want to. I don't want to do an hour-long stream where I'm just ranting and raving and saying how shit everything is. But I just don't see that many pros. I mean, yes, drivers, less fuel, free tire choice, I guess, and again, maybe you could argue it's a more exciting way of starting the grid. But not necessarily, so we'll see. Just want to say, though, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas have gone out on track and they have set lap times on the soft compound tyre, but they are massively slow compared to Max Verstappen. Hamilton goes third, but is almost 0.8 of a second slower than Max Verstappen on the same tyre. Bottas almost 1 second slower than Max Verstappen on the same tyre. So at the minute, with only 9 minutes to go in the final practice session before qualifying, I have to say Max Verstappen is the clear favourite for pole here. I mean, I'm not going to count Lewis Hamilton out because it's Lewis Hamilton, but I mean, Hamilton didn't even get ahead of Lando Norris, and Norris went second on the medium compound tyre. Mercedes do not look good right now compared to Verstappen. I mean, they're not bad, Mercedes. They're definitely still in a strong enough position to compete, but Verstappen still looking by far and away dominant out front, you have to say, as Norris comes to the line, does not improve his time, does do, though, an improved final sector in the McLaren. I'm just trying to see if I've got the order that I've got on my screen. Just trying to see if it is correct. Not fully, as Raikkonen is up to 13th. And Schumacher is in 15th now. Here's a replay of Lando Norris, I believe, making a mistake. No, they're just showing highlights of his lap, even though it wasn't really a lap to be highlighted because he did not improve. And is currently in second place. And given how slow Mercedes were just then on the soft compound tyre, if Norris can bang in those laps in qualifying, then what's to say he can't be up there in the top 3 or 4 like he was in Austria? We'll have to see as Carlos Sainz comes to the line now on the soft compound tyre and goes P4 in the Ferrari, splitting the 2 Mercedes there. So Sainz up to 4th, and that's a good run there for the Spaniard. Let me just make sure the rest of the order is bang on. Yes, it is at the moment. As also Charles Leclerc is on a lap on the soft compound tyre. Let's see what he can do on this lap. He is currently 3.5 tenths off Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. This is a very good lap for Charles Leclerc right now. As he comes flying through Stowe Corner, hits the apex, doesn't run wide at all, and McLaren gets out of his way. Now into the final chicane. Car looks very good, I have to say, does the Ferrari. It's still lacking a bit of power, but is still, aerodynamically speaking, very, very strong. And he goes P4 and only slightly slower than Lewis Hamilton. So, Ferrari on the soft compound tyre looking very, very strong. 4th and 5th, Mercedes 3rd and 6th. Looking, very close between Mercedes and Ferrari there. Leclerc did lose the rear end slightly on the exit of the penultimate corner of turn 17, so could have maybe gone a tad quicker. Maybe that's what cost him going into 3rd. As Esteban Ocon goes into 9th place for the Alpine team. Let me just update that quick. There you go. Ocon into 9th as Lewis Hamilton is on another outlap. Sebastian Vettel now coming through Chapel. And his middle sector is 6.5 tenths down on Max Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. So he'll probably go up to 7th place with this. He's currently sat in P11. So yeah, he'll probably go up to 7th with this lap. As he comes through the final chicane now, as Fernando Alonso goes up into 14th position. And yep, Sebastian Vettel does go P7 with that lap. So, good run for him and Aston Martin, at least with Sebastian Vettel looking pretty strong. As Hamilton on his outlap. I just wanted to mention, though, as Valtteri Bottas does improve his time and goes only 5th, though, still slower than Charles Leclerc. Hamilton is only 1,000th of a second slower than Lando Norris in this session. Not gaining much time even on the soft tyre compared to Norris, even in the first and second sector. So, yeah, Mercedes not looking that great right now. But one thing I wanted to say with Lewis Hamilton is, yes, Lewis Hamilton has been great at the British Grand Prix, but when Verstappen, he won the last race we had at Silverstone, of course, the 70th anniversary Grand Prix with a great drive, and if he replicates that, Max, this weekend, then Max, I think, definitely will win this Grand Prix. He did benefit, though, a lot, did Verstappen, from starting on the hard compound tyre compared to the Mercs, who are on the medium. But if you look at Lewis Hamilton's last, say, 3 British Grand Prix wins, he hasn't really had that much competition for them. Yes, his last win here, he had the tyre failure, but let's say there were no tyre failures for anyone, he was going to easily, finish in first place ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who was consistently 3 or 4 seconds behind him. In 2019, did have a decent battle with Bottas, or not even decent, I say it's a very good battle with Bottas for the first sector, first sector of the race, I guess you could say. And then, benefited quite a bit from a safety car coming out at the right time for him. And even in 2017, he was very quick in 2017 in that weekend. He was probably, the quickest driver. But he also did benefit a lot from Mercedes being very quick that weekend. I just feel as though with Hamilton, if you look at the last 2 Grand Prix here at Silverstone that he's not won, he's had tremendous competition from 2 drivers at that time who were driving very, very well or had cars that seemingly on the day could go toe-to-toe with Mercedes. Of course, Max Verstappen at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, because of Verstappen's tyre choice, and Red Bull in the race, definitely compared to Mercedes in that Grand Prix, were a lot stronger. Because even Alex Albon, I remember in that race, his pace was pretty good compared to the Mercedes, as well as he finished in 5th, I think, for that Grand Prix. And as well, back in 2018, Ferrari probably had a car that was a tad quicker than Mercedes that weekend. And I just feel as though Hamilton, in previous years, when he had Rosberg as his teammate, he definitely had stiff competition to win here and did extremely well to be as good as he was at those particular Grand Prix to win the British Grand Prix. But I just feel as though in the last 2 or 3 wins he's had here, that he hasn't quite had the competition that he used to have in terms of winning this Grand Prix. And when he has had proper competition from drivers a lot better than his teammate, he has come unstuck, and Mercedes have come unstuck in the last couple of occasions where he's not won here, with Verstappen winning, of course, last year, and then Vettel in 2018, as there's a briefly yellow flag there. I just want to make clear, though, I'm not saying Lewis Hamilton has been lucky to win the British Grand Prix in the last 2 or 3 times he's won it, say, since 2017. He's been very, very strong. He's so great around Silverstone. This is definitely his strongest circuit, without doubt. But like I said, he hasn't had quite the competition to win the British Grand Prix that he had in the past. And I do think that is definitely a factor in why possibly this weekend he might not be able to, say, come out on top compared to Max Verstappen, because it's not like Lewis Hamilton is used to every British Grand Prix coming here and having to be at his absolute greatest to be right there with his rival. Because again, in 3 or 4 of the last 5 British Grand Prix here, he's had a car so good, and his competition only being Valtteri Bottas most of that time, that he hasn't really had to be at his very best to still get the results he's got. But still, I think Lewis Hamilton later today will be very strong. But I have to say, with practice 1 coming to a close now, and the order remaining as it is, Max Verstappen, without doubt, is the clear favourite to win, or not to win, but to get pole position later tonight, without doubt. To be P1 by 0.8 of a second to Norris and Hamilton, especially to Hamilton, considering they're both on the same compound of tyre, is a stunning accomplishment. It really, really is. I've got to say, though, Lando Norris as well, stunning from him. Second on the medium compound tyre when Verstappen and Hamilton on the soft. That is a brilliant effort from Lando Norris. So we can expect him to be right up there in this qualifying session coming up later today. But Max Verstappen, without doubt, as practice 1 has come to a close, Verstappen is the clear favourite for pole position later today. As just here's a replay of Russell at Copse, and I think they found where his left-hand mirror has got a crack in it from, I think, running over the exit curb at Copse, just a bit too hard. Yeah, Max Verstappen, P1, like I said, he is the clear favourite of pole position, given his performance so far. And then the rest of the order is Norris 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Bottas 5th, Carlos Sainz in 6th, and then Vettel 7th, Perez 8th, Ricciardo 9th, and Ocon 10th. And then Gasly, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, Stroll, Mazepin, and Russell. So there you go, guys. That is practice 1 for the 2021 British Grand Prix. And don't forget, I will be live in, 2 hours from now for qualifying for the British Grand Prix. So don't forget to come along to that and join me for what is going to be a very exciting session, a very hot, sunny, and packed Silverstone circuit. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or just go to my channel page and do it there. Don't forget as well to smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can, and don't forget as well to join my Discord server, link below in the description. That's a very good place for notifications if you want them for my videos and streams, and also it's very active, really all the time, talking really all things about motorsport. And we have, I think, nearly 500 people on that server. We're on about 470 or 480 people. So if you want to join that and the growing community here, then make sure to do so. But guys, until my qualifying stream in 2 hours from now, it has been me, Chazzer HD. Goodbye.